we'll go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have some more people trickling in, but thank you all for joining us for this month's Beyond Maintenance. We are digging into the world of automation in maintenance and really excited about the panelists we have. Some great conversations ahead of us. Go ahead and introduce our wonderful panel, starting with Austin Wentz. He is our manager of engineering at Property Meld. Austin, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, nice to see everybody. My name is Austin. I'm in management engineering here at Property Meld. Got you know, a decade or more of experience with software engineering and big data and a number of other types of stuff. Most of my time was spent at Amazon Web Services, but I've been here at Property Meld for it's over a year and a half now, and it's been a great learning, great time here.
Thanks, Austin. All right, Maria, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Napolitano. I am in Kissimmee, Florida. I have a brokerage here, Allegiant Management Group. I got my start in real estate back in 2002, so I surpassed my 20-year mark in the industry. Property management I jumped into in '06 and then opened my firm in 2012. I've seen a lot of changes over the years, automation being the newest thing. I by no means am tech savvy, so all this automation and everything and technology kind of got a little bit of the best of me. So I did hire some people to handle this aspect of the business.
And last but not least, Peter, you may introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, Peter Lohman here. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I own RL Property Management, which is, we focus on residential property management, and we manage around 600 doors all over central Ohio. We're focused on single family rentals and small multifamily. And I've been doing this 10 years. So we celebrated our 10-year anniversary of opening the business earlier this year. And we started with 0 units other than just a small handful of single family rentals that my partner and I owned at the time. So I've been sort of riding the wave of technology that's really washed through the industry. It's maybe a good way to say that. I've tried to stay fairly close to the forefront of what's new and what's been possible through technology in the industry.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here with us today. For everybody, all the attendees, I love to keep Beyond Maintenance as attendees engaged as possible. So feel free as the conversation is rolling to drop questions in the Q&A box, and I'll answer them as they come in where they're relevant to the conversation that we're having. So please feel free to use that. All right, so automation. It's been a huge part of the industry so far. We've seen a lot of the uses of it in the accounting aspects of things, but there's been a lot of fear around it as well. So I would love to, Maria, with your experience, with over 20 years of experience in the industry, like where are you seeing what are some of the hesitations you're having around the automation and bringing it into the maintenance aspect of your business?
Well, I mean, again, I know I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of people that are probably intimidated by it because it is very intimidating, especially, if you don't understand a lot of it. But, it's definitely taken us very far in the business and has brought us to where, we're provide great service to our clients and our tenants are happy. Several years ago, before the automation, we started jumping into it. It wasn't that way. So we've definitely been able to, especially in the last probably 2 years, I would say, we jumped on board, and started building out processes and different things like that, and utilizing some other platforms for our maintenance. So it's really helped, but it is very intimidating, and I know I'm not alone in that. I'm sure, there's a lot of other people that feel that way as well. So.
Yeah. So Austin, like, I think this is a great spot for like your expertise in the engineering world, not just specific to property meld and maintenance, but the power of automation and what are some concerns there, like, and how to execute it to the best of its ability in a safe way.
Yeah, I think automation can be a super powerful tool, but it's also kind of a double-edged sword. So if it's really powerful, but you can also get cut with it. So I think some of the really good ways to get started with automation is to definitely have one or more humans in the loop, and have the automation just telling you what it's going to do before you have it do something. So if it in regards to maintenance, if want to take particular actions, have automation around certain parts of that, you could have it just tell you what automation is going to do, and you can track that over a couple months and see, is it making the right choice that I want it to make over that period of time, and you get comfortable with the choices it's making, and then you can say flip the switch and say, okay, now it's time to turn it on with the choices it's been making so far. I think one of the things to keep in mind with automation, especially it's going to make, a lot of times it'll make the right decision 95% of the time, but that one or two times it makes the wrong decision, it makes a drastically wrong decision. And so having some sort of like being very careful around like making sure it's limited on what is being automated, and having some sort of fail safes in there in case it makes wrong decisions, so that it minimizes the impact. But I think those are some keys to keep in mind with automation.
Peter, how are some of the ways you guys are using this? I know, like, I've read your emails and listen to your podcasts and you did a great review on Realm, and you're seeing. I know you're familiar with Property Meld's opportunity too, but so what are the most powerful ways you guys are using it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see. In terms of automation, we've been pretty early adopters of that technology because I was a big believer in the possibility of automation. For us, what's important is getting the right process in place first, and even executing that process manually, whether that's processing maintenance requests or handling lease renewals or a lease signing checklist. Getting the tasks on that process in the right order and not making sure we're not missing anything or doing work we don't have to do, and then sort of running that for a while. At that point is when I feel comfortable bringing automation into it, because there's no point in automating something if you're not even sure it's going to work or if nobody understands it. The other part of it too is that the team tends to value and embrace automation much more if they've been doing the work manually for a while, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, let's definitely automate that. This is getting really old. Rather than, if you're new to automation, it can be a little scary. Anything new is our natural reaction, maybe a little bit of fear. And I think for property management company owners and for the teams that are doing those tasks within the organization, there's fears around this idea that, well, they're just going to automate everything. I remember like 5 years ago, I had a team member come to me when we first started getting pretty involved with some processes and some process automation. And she was like, it feels like you're just trying to turn us all into robots. I remember her saying that. And that's a valid concern. And I think if you're the owner in a business, you need to do a great job explaining how the plan isn't to turn everyone into robots. The plan isn't to replace people's jobs. The plan is to make everybody more efficient and make everybody's jobs easier with automation so that we can all do more, manage more units, or take care of more maintenance requests, or whatever the case may be. So that communication piece is really important as you start to move automation of any kind through your business. We're using various zaps to move information around between applications, to notify team members in Slack about important items, like if a lease is signed or a management agreement is signed, or if we get a new lead. We played around with some other things, like, we could pretty easily set up a zap that would pop something into Slack anytime we got a new maintenance request. That would be a little overkill, right? Because we get a bunch of those every day, and we're handling those within Property Meld. But yeah, it's important to be a little careful about how you're handling automation. You don't want to overdo it, but you also don't want to allow your fears to prevent you from taking any action.
Absolutely. And I think when we think about, who your new customer is, like who the customer is today, and what are they expecting? What aspects of the residents' interaction with your company are they expected to have that human touch, and how much are they expecting it to be automated, like swiftly? And like how are you guys like managing that? Are you looking into that, making sure that you're having that?
Yeah, like there's a balance, so we have two sets of customers, right? We have our residents and we have our owners. And those customers are used to dealing with various types of companies, big companies, small companies, local companies, global companies. And those companies have different approaches to their communication. Like I expect to get a lot of automated communication from Amazon. In fact, I don't think I've ever gotten a personal communication from a specific person at Amazon, right? On the other hand, when I go to get my car fixed at my local mechanic, I'm not expecting some global, AI to be, notifying me about the status of my vehicle. I'm expecting Jeff to give me a call back when it's ready to be picked up. So trying to navigate that as property managers look for ways to be more efficient, and as they also grow, is interesting, right? Like, what are our clients expecting? Are they expecting automated notifications as a unit moves through the turn process, or are they expecting Kelly to text them? Like it's hard to tease that apart and figure out what they're expecting and what would be exciting and cool for them to receive, and what would be off-putting in terms of automated communication. So that's what comes up for me.
Do you guys look at the same way, Maria?
Hold on. Yeah, I mean, pretty much so. We, automation is important, very important, especially, the society we live in now. Tenants, they want everything now. They don't want to wait. So they kind of prefer the automation more so probably than the ones that are paying the bills, the owners of the properties. They enjoy the automation, but they still we can never lose the human touch or the personal touch in what we do. So you got to find that balance between the two. But it's, it's a matter of, trial and error, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Like Peter said, you got to get your processes out first. We used to do everything manually, especially when it came to maintenance, it was all manual. Then, I brought in a operations coordinator, and he took on the task of documenting our processes, putting them down on paper. And then from there, we put them into, Lead Simple. And then from there, now, we're starting with the automation and everything. But it's been probably about 7 months now that we've been heavily focused on getting that going. But it's a process. It's not, you can't just flip a switch and here you go, everything is automated.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. I think everybody thinks it's an easy thing. It's a project. It's a big undertaking. And, you have to understand that your processes change every day. Your processes are a living document. It's living, it's constantly growing, it's constantly changing. Nobody expected the world to shut down with COVID. We had to, like, on the fly change everything and change the way we operated because of that. So again, with the automation, it helps, but you still have to have that human touch on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a great quote I heard from some property manager on a podcast or something, and they said, "Automate the ordinary so you can personalize the extraordinary." And that's a great to frame this. You don't necessarily need to be manually entering every rent payment or manually posting listings to every single different website. Like, that is stuff that should be automated so that you can get on the phone with an owner when the resident's dog bites the mailman, right? Which is a thing that actually happened at one of our properties a while ago. So the idea that you're going to lose that human touch, that's probably one of the most common fears I hear around automation. And that's just not the case. There's so many crazy things that happen in property management. It's never all going to be automated. And if you're so busy putting out just the daily fires or handling the daily tasks, then you're not going to have time to get on the phone and have those important conversations with clients and tenants when you need to.
Absolutely. I think that, like, being able to shore up that time. So, like, we always look at it as, do you want your time spent at the value add or just the repetitive mundane? And I think I like that quote, Peter, for sure. So Austin, like, best practices in when, like, looking at this, and how do you create that balance between the customizable and the automated? This is in, like, when you guys were building for automation, what do you look at?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one, when you're building for automation, something, it has to be measurable. So whatever you're automating, you have to have an easy way to measure things there. So things that cannot be easily quantitatively, or like there's no sort of number measurement. It's hard to say, hey, is this automation helping us, or is it working properly? Is it not working properly? And so I think that's always a key one when thinking about, like, hey, we should automate this. Some sort of metric to track, like whether it's working. Do you need to change it as it's going, or is it providing any value? So I think that's probably one big area around, like, when to choose something to automate or when not to. So,
how, Maria, are you guys tracking the success of your automations right now, or do you have anything in place that you are tracking that you know that it is a value add?
Yeah. Well, let's take maintenance, for example. We're tracking some different things. We look at, like, numbers before we started really automating and after. We're tracking, speed of repair, the time it takes from when a request comes in till it's scheduled. That's huge, because you want to make sure that you have the right automations in place to make sure that the vendor is getting with the tenant right away and getting it scheduled. Because the longer it takes, the more unhappy your tenants are. When they're unhappy property manager, unhappy owner. So it kind of trickles down. So we look at that. We look at the time with the vendor from coming into completion. So we've taken we've set up some workflows and stuff within Property Meld, like some automations in there to, troubleshoot, or, an automation to the vendor. Here you go, please make sure you send pictures, so that afterwards we don't have to chase them down for pictures. Even for reviews from the tenants, if they give us a 5-star for the vendor, then, hey, can you put a review on Google for us? That's automated. So we have a lot of those things, but we track, the biggest numbers and things that we track is how quickly can we get a work order scheduled, and how fast can we get the repairs done? Those are the two biggest ones that we're tracking and trying to automate whatever we can. We notice when we get a lot of chats back and forth in a work order, then something's wrong. We're missing, there's a piece missing there if there's too much going back and forth with the work order. It might be scheduling, it might be, something with the vendor or something with the tenant. So we kind of look at a lot of different metrics there.
How about you guys, Peter?
Yeah, so a lot of what Maria just said, honestly. So the one that was coming up for me is the requesting a review when the work order has gone well. That's a great way to add Google reviews. A lot of people get really focused on the negative reviews, trying to remove those or fighting with Google about it. It's not really much you can do, honestly. I got bad news. I've tried, and a lot of people have tried, and there's companies out there claiming that they can get those removed. I don't even know how that's possible. I think that might be a scam. Just focus on getting as many good reviews as you can. And the best time to do that is to request a review after someone's had a great experience with your company, such as getting a maintenance request completed in a timely fashion. So Property Meld has some automations around there, which are really helpful that we take advantage of. Other automations, so we use a survey tool called Retently that does NPS surveying of our clients and tenants, but it's not integrated with our property management software. So we set up an automation that automatically adds residents and owners as part of our onboarding to that software and removes them when we demanage the property or if they move out. So that's another automation that we have kind of running in the background just to save our team some time. Anywhere that you have double entry of data is an opportunity to look to improve or automate that. So for example, Property Meld used to be that there was no integration with Buildium, and so we had to manually enter our new properties and our new tenants into Meld every time that we got a new one, and then every time we demanaged someone, we would have to remove it. Now that process is almost completely automated. So there's no double entry of data, less opportunity for error, less steps by our team. Huge win. So, and I love that that's starting to become more the norm across our industry as vendors have figured out how to make peace with one another and communicate. That just makes our lives so much easier as property managers.
Absolutely. So Miguel asked a question. He said he liked what Peter said. Can we suggest some automations that can be worth spending time on? The example, and I think we just kind of talked through some, but like lease notifications, you mentioned that. Is there any other like the biggest impact that you've seen? The automation that you can't go back on.
Yeah, I'm trying to steer these more toward maintenance because I know that's the focus of the panel today. So, anything you can put in place that's going to keep people up to date with what's happening is going to be a big win for all involved. So on maintenance requests, that's going to look like automatically notifying residents every step along the way. Hey, we've received your maintenance request. Hey, your maintenance request is now being reviewed. Hey, your maintenance request has been assigned to a vendor. Hey, the vendor has acknowledged receipt of the maintenance request. Hey, the vendor has scheduled the maintenance request. Like, it sounds ridiculous to have like 6, 7, 8, 10 different automated notifications going out to residents about their maintenance request. But my guess is they actually love it because it feels more like an Amazon experience. It feels like they can, quote, track the package, and they know that it's not been forgotten about or ignored or overlooked or what have you. Even if you have to deliver negative information, if you can do that promptly, that's going to go over way better than they call 2 weeks after the fact and they're like, hey, whatever happened with that thing? And you say, oh yeah, we talked to the owner, they didn't approve it. That's not going to be a great outcome. So, and the same thing on the owner side, right? Any notifications you can automate to the owner. So one thing that we recently put in place around turns. So we use Airtable to track our property owner turns, and we put an automation in there so that if we're waiting on the owner for something like approval to start a turn or funding needed to start a turn, Airtable automatically emails that owner like every 4 days, letting them know, hey, we're waiting on you. Here's the next step in order to proceed with getting your property ready to rent. So that's something in automation that is happening behind the scenes that my team isn't having to remember to go back and follow up and follow up and follow up with that owner about something where the ball's in their court.
Yeah, definitely taking us back to the maintenance ladder of excellence, and it all starts with communication and having that that foundational, creating that track the package experience and like being in the know, and the impact on the resident satisfaction, knowing that the resident today has grown up in a notification environment. Like that's where they're notified about everything, and this experience shouldn't be any different.
I think one important thing to add there is some people don't like to be notified of all that stuff, and having some way for people to turn that off. I know we've experienced that and had issues where we're letting people know too much stuff, or we're giving them stuff that's not helpful. So making sure that those notifications are useful, one, and having the capability to, turn that off for specific people that don't want to, giving them some mechanism to say, hey, that's enough. I don't want to hear about that anymore. I'm good. So making sure to balance that and have ways to turn that automation off in granular ways so it doesn't impact majority of your customers, but say there's that 5 to 10% that are like, I don't want notifications, or I know where to look to see what the status of this is, to give them that capability as well.
Absolutely. And I think that that's where user-defined automation is so powerful, because it creates that space where you have those stopgaps and the safety nets there. Maria, do you have a cannot live without automation that you guys have implemented?
Probably all of them.
Yeah.
Now that we finally, pulled the trigger and we're moving forward with the automation and things are getting built out, and we're running a lot of them now, but we're still in trial and error period on some of them. But I have to say, probably on the maintenance side, it's going to be I'm with one of the companies that wasn't playing nice with everybody for my management software that they're playing nice with now. So with their integrations, it just automates everything back and forth between, we're sticking with maintenance right now, Property Meld and Appfolio. So it's pulling all the data from Appfolio to Property Meld, but then in turn, Property Meld is pushing everything back into Appfolio now. So we don't have to input invoices into Appfolio. We don't have to go to two places for the chat messages, because now that's it's going back and forth between each platform. But probably the biggest one for the maintenance side is going to be like the invoicing and all of that, being able to automate that and go into our software. Outside of that, probably the other favorite automation of mine is our leasing process, our renewal process rather. We've worked long and hard on that one, and I think we've pretty much got it perfected now. So if you can get your renewal process automated, it's a wonderful thing and a great time saver to be able to automate that. So, it starts from, triggering the process and, getting market rents and contacting the owner and letting the tenant know, sending out the renewal offer, so all of that. If you can automate a lot of that, because we start our renewal process 95 days in advance before expiration. Because in our lease, we have to give a 60-day notice to a tenant. So we're starting it way in advance, right from, renewal inspection on down to, getting the renewal lease signed. So that's probably my biggest time saver and favorite automation that we have going.
I love that. I want to take a second here, and Amanda shared some great stuff in the chat on eliminating or the pushback that they'd received, and how she worked through that. And I love the biggest aid is overcoming these hurdles has been constantly sharing the bigger picture vision, why we're incorporating automation, why it will help in the long run, why is constant hustle doing so much manually not equal to showing value. And then this quote is awesome. Leaders must either invest in a reasonable amount of time attending to fears and feelings, or squander an unreasonable amount of time trying to manage ineffective and unproductive behavior. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Austin, do you have any insight into trends that you're seeing, not just in maintenance and what Property Meld's working on, but where's automation going to take us next?
We got an audio problem with you, Austin.
Yeah, I think you're. Oh no.
Maybe we come back to him.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Peter, I think you could share kind of in the property management space, what are some trends, and where do you think we'll be going next with this?
Well, we're only going one direction, and that's toward more automation, more AI, more process and system oriented activities. So there's definitely going to be, I don't want to say there's definitely going to be, but it seems likely to me there's going to be a kind of a new generation of property management companies. And I think I almost sit right at the split. I'm like an elder millennial. I was born in 85. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like those who are younger than me are going to be all in on this stuff for the most part. And those who are starting their management companies now or have started them recently, they're going to be, this is all just going to make sense to them intuitively as the way that you would do things. Those who are older than me, who have been around longer, it might be more of a challenge, and they may rightfully look at the situation and say, you know what, I've got 5 years left. I think I can run this the way I've been running it for the next 5 years. My clients are going to be fine. I'm just going to proceed. And I think that's a rational decision, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see, right? Jordan Moyle's got a great line about how for those who are looking to be more tech-centric and systems and process oriented with automation, the job to be done for those property management business owners is to design the way the system is going to work. And that's what they're going to think of as their job when they walk into the office. Whereas the older school mentality is kind of like alluding to what Amanda was sharing, like, my job is to hurry up and get all the work done. Mm-hmm. My job is to collect the rent. My job is to get the lease renewals out. The way I think of it is my job is to construct the way the work gets done.
Yeah.
And I actually get kind of annoyed when I get pulled back into doing like direct tasks rather than designing the way the system functions. So it'll be really interesting to watch that proceed as we move toward the future. As the technology gets better and better, it's going to become more and more compelling, and it's going to almost start to become required to stay competitive, mm-hmm. right? Because the way this is going to manifest is the ability to manage more units per employee. That's like the end state. So right now, the NARPM study, the benchmark profitability benchmarking study they just updated, showed that the average property manager manages, I think it was like 45 units per employee. That's for scattered site property management. The top quartile was like 59 units per employee, and that number is going to drastically increase with time as payments move 100% online, as work orders move 100% online, as vendors start to come on board with online payments and online work orders, as owners become used to using portals and online payments. Like, it's only going one direction. So if you can stay ahead of that and lean in and embrace it, the next 20 years are going to be great for you, and you're going to be competitive, and you're going to benefit from the technology. And for those who don't want to do that, I don't think it's required. I just think it's where we're going.
And I think that like I think of, where I am in my career, like I'm, 86, so I'm on that same mark or with the millennials. So, but I look at the jobs that I would go and do if a company isn't moving in that direction, I don't know if I would go and work there. So it's like, as you're
That's
hiring and
interesting.
your business is growing, you have to start looking at that. As many people who are fearful of transitioning into an automated work environment, there's also those that probably won't work for you unless you are, because it's just commonplace. Like the amount of tasks that my team has automated through our CRM, HubSpot. I can't imagine if I expected them to manually do all of that. They all walk on me. All right, Austin, are we back?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
we're
just
good.
switch headphones.
Yeah, you sound good now.
We went analog.
Yeah.
All right, so just looking to you for what trends, where we can see this taking us.
What trends we could see automation taking us?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
what's
I
going to
think
make it
there's
really
going to be more.
powerful?
I think more and more we're seeing kind of like AI automation that is very more general purpose and not like targeted specific, that can do things that, recognize certain things and take action on them without having all this like, workflow configuration or things. I think that is probably where I think automation is going to go like next. And seeing like, and it just being really powerful. And so keeping an eye on that. I think that's probably the next area I see. Figuring out a way to manage that is going to be key. Being able to incorporate that into automation, and to utilize that in a safe and effective way.
Very true. And I think too, thinking about, when we're looking at the process is so important right now. Like you have your process and now you like look at it and how it drives the automation that you build. But will we get to a point where, automation is actually building the process as well? Like that's where it's going to be pretty interesting, I think, to see how things go. We are kind of wrapping up with the questions that I have for everyone. Any audience questions that we have anymore? Feel free to drop them in there. Anything? All right, here. Thanks, Glenn. How better automation screenings, pets, persons, employment, landlords. Does anybody have any processes in place that they're using automation for screenings?
Well, we're using most of our tenant screening is automated through, we're utilizing Findigs now for that. So their platform has actually transformed our tenant screening, because before we were doing a lot of manual digging. We would always go down the rabbit holes with applications. I'm sure everybody's been there, So with their system, it's automating the credit reporting, the eviction screening, the background check. It's checking their ID against a picture that they have to upload. All that is automatic to make sure that they are who they say they are. It's automatically checking documents now to see if they're fraudulent. It's automatically sending out that rental verification to the previous landlord or the current landlord. So that's how we're automating all of that, even to payroll and employment. It will, they can link in their payroll company or their bank account, and it will check for payroll deposits. So again, it has cut down the time that we're taking processing applications over half. We're spending a very little time, actually, we're reviewing. And if sometimes there's additional information we'll need to collect to review, but most of it is automated at this point.
That's really cool. We are not quite so automated on our resident screening. We do use a cool service called resident verification. I'm sorry, landlord verification. I don't know what they're doing on their end. From our end, it's automated, but they will contact the previous landlords to verify rental history for us. So in conjunction with the building reports that we get back from TransUnion, that process is pretty streamlined. We use Show Mojo for our self-showings. They have a verification process where the prospective tenant takes a photo of their ID, and then we have to manually verify that on our end to approve them to go see the property. So that's not super automated. I feel like some of those vendors have that part automated where the ID check is automatic. Hopefully Show Mojo is working on that. On background checks for employees, our payroll software is Gusto, which I love. And they fairly recently, within a year or two, rolled out the ability to do background checks within Gusto. Prior to that, we were using a different software. So we do, like criminal background checks, all the other standard new employee checks you want to run. That is automated through Gusto for us on that front. We don't really do any screening on pets, but I've heard a lot of really good things about pet screening. I think that's what it's called, right? Petscreening.com. So go check them out. I heard they're really good. So I think that's what I know about screenings. Probably some more opportunity for automating screenings than we're currently doing. My guess is that that's an area that's going to continue to get attention because it's a fairly low value task, very repetitive, that we all have to do. So those are areas that you'll look to see automation come in and add a lot of value.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here with us. We will be back next month, August 23rd, for another episode, and we're going to be digging into communication efficiencies, take it to the bottom rung of the maintenance ladder of excellence. So Molly's going to drop the link for registration in the chat. Also, watch for emails with who our panelists will be and more information on that. And then, as always, if you haven't bought your Maintenance Summit tickets yet, get them now. We're super excited. The monthly Meld for all Meld customers went out today. There's a nice little BOGO gift in there, so BOGO cards. So we want to get as many property management companies and their teams here. So watch for that email. And
how many tickets left? There can't be that many left.
There are about 50 left. So
50 tickets left?
Yep. So we're getting down to the end. But as always, I know it's the last minute. I know when I'm registering for conferences, I'm always at the last minute registry, but we just opened up. Actually, we had our room block was full, so I just opened that up for another 20 rooms that are in the discounted rate. So if you are coming and you haven't got your rooms yet, check the website for that. And get those booked before August 13th. So we are offering a virtual ticket, but those are for companies who you have to buy an in-person ticket and then you get the virtual ticket. So make sure to check for that.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on the panel. Appreciate being here and great questions from everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank
Peter,
you very much.
I'm going to send you an email about that for
Okay.
sure. Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.